Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is bigger than us, to the great mystery, to the divine synchronicity, to the unfolding, to what we're here to do in Earth School. And I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird, and I love to have these conversations. I love to illuminate different aspects of the journey so that we can all learn and grow together. And, I just flat out think this is the best thing since apple pie. So when I found out my spiritual journey, boy, everything just turned around for me. And I started getting pretty curious about how it all works and what am I really here to do? And that part has made all the difference. That, walking with hand in hand with the divine has been pretty amazing in my own journey. And of course, if you're interested in going deeper on that journey, please check out my website, carriehummingbird.com, Kerri, hummingbird.com, and, book a discovery call or something. Let's just get to know each other. I would love to get to know you if you've been listening to my podcast. So just to know who's listening. So today, my guest is Jennifer Weber. I'm so excited you're here, Jennifer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carrie. Thanks for having me.
So Jennifer and I were getting into juicy conversation right before we started the broadcast, and I was like, we got to save this good stuff for the audience. So Jennifer helps spiritual people make a deeper connection with God to design and co-create an extraordinary life of purpose. She is the author of the Amazon best-selling book, Living Guided. Divine Power is Always and Forever with You. And she speaks on shows, teaches individuals, and hosts masterminds. So today, Jennifer is going to start off by sharing with us her journey and then some insights into what's going on now, because the journey deepens, doesn't it, Jennifer?
It sure does. It's not like we stop on the journey, and like, oh, I'm there. I'm totally enlightened now. It's all good. It's so easy. It's more like, what? There's another lesson?
There's another level of mastery? What?
Okay. But now you get to know what it feels like. So this is a long journey. It's a lifelong journey. I do come from a very spiritual family. It's actually a process of a discovery, really, about that. I didn't know my family was quite so spiritual, really, except for my father and I. We had these amazing conversations when I was little and when I was growing up. My father was in the Vietnam War, and he had an out-of-body experience when he was wounded. He was very wounded. I mean, he really should not have survived, and no one should survive what the shots and the wounds that he received, but he did somehow miraculously. He had a miraculous experience when he called out to God, asking for the pain to stop because it was excruciating, and he couldn't take it anymore. And when he screamed that out, it all went away for a moment so he could sleep. And then he slept for the first time in a very long time. And that in and of itself was quite a miracle. But then he was able to come out of his body when he had, he briefly passed, and he saw himself, and he saw the nurse come running toward him, which he thought he was just standing there, and it wasn't him, it was the spirit. And was then back into his body. And we talk about that, the experience of that. That started a very spiritual curiosity in me. I grew up in Utah as a non-Mormon. God was a part of everyday life there, though. So I felt I was kind of on the outside looking in the religious experience that was going on around me, but it caused me to create a very intimate connection with God for myself, because I had to find that connection and say, no, God is for me too. It's for me too. Not just the religion that's around me, it's me too. God is for me too. And so I started to develop that intimate connection. And it was kind of a quiet, sweet, peaceful connection that I had. And I started feeling like I'm getting stuff. I'm getting what's going on with people, which is really weird. And I'm picking up on energy with people. And sometimes I would get things that I would need to share with them. I didn't know how I knew these things. So it was just something I did from childhood on. And but it came on really strong when I went through a very difficult time in my life, and then it just kind of went. So that's when I decided it's time for me to write a book. It's time for me to start teaching this thing, and I'm getting more and more lessons and more guidance, and like, I got it. This is what I'm really here to do. That's why I went through all the stuff that I did and continue to go through. It's a process of refinement so that I can do this work, which is teach.
That's beautiful. I love that you said God is for me too.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's like this code or message that sometimes people in religion can give off, like, oh, well, if you're not in my religion, then God's not for you. Like, you know, you're on the off team. Like, you're on the bench. You're not in the game, you know, because God's not for you unless you're in my religion. And
Mm-hmm.
I never bought that, because I'm like, I just don't believe there'd be any God that would say, oh, well, if you don't have access to this special teaching, then I don't accept you. That does not feel right to me. It doesn't
No.
feel wrong to me, actually.
It is this weird feeling of being on the outside looking in and feeling like, but isn't God just for everyone? That we all have this connection? Aren't we all divine beings? You know, when you look at, I'm starting to learn a little bit more about Christ as well, and just as an understanding of that spiritual journey that he went through and what he was teaching, trying to understand it, wrap my head around it, it feels like, wait, you know, there is this thing that I feel is a part of the world right now, or even part of particularly the US. We're so divided right now. And it's like, even when I said the word Jesus, I felt like I was talking about Jesus, and and it's like, you have to really belong to this particular, religion or faith, or come from this, point of view to even talk about Jesus. And I was like, wait. This seems really silly to me. Isn't this an incredibly beautiful human being who embraced so many different kinds of people? And when I start learning about his disciples, these were the outcasts. His followers and his disciples were the outcasts, were the people who were not accepted in their, well, I should say, there was something wrong with every one of them. They were not perfect, far from it. But they did have faith. They did have that. And they were kind of on the outside looking in. And I thought, okay, that's kind of me, especially where I grew up. I was kind of on the outside looking in. But I felt really connected, and I felt a love for this divine teacher. And so I've had my experience. It's in my book. I actually wasn't even saying the word Jesus when I was teaching and talking, because it felt so weird doing that. I don't know why. It just felt like that's not part of my teaching, I say divine, I say, higher power and all that stuff. And then I had that very profound experience where I saw him, and I was like, okay, I don't know why, but maybe you're my guide. Maybe you're the one I've been connecting with all along. And maybe you're the one who's given me this information. And maybe you're the one I'm supposed to talk about. And I've come to this place of this incredible deep love. The point where I watched a movie about his life and the crucifixion, and I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed, because I thought, I saw the beauty of this soul. How could we possibly, we being humanity at all, destroy that? Something so beautiful. To put it on to this place and time where we are right now, there's so much beauty in each and every single one of us. Such profound beauty. When I look at you, I see something very beautiful. When I look at another and I look at a child, I see something so beautiful. And it hurts my soul deeply when I see an unkindness to any single one other human being. Hurts me deeply and bothers me. It's the same feeling I had when he went through the crucifixion and going through all this unbelievable horrors and pains. it is that inability within each and every one of us to embrace, even embrace the beauty in one another. We do still have that, unfortunately, and we do still have the ability to divide one another. And we're learning and up leveling so we can stop it, stop that, and see the beauty, because that's really so much more prevalent when we aren't being manipulated by a darker energy to see something less than beauty.
It's definitely a process. I mean, I call all that the crust. You know, there's like the human crust. It's just
Yeah,
used to crust up everything that we actually are innately, naturally beautiful on the inside.
yeah,
And then like this crusty stuff starts to show up, which we inherit from, you know, just being on the planet. And it's like the journey is to like find your way back out of the crust, you know, to find your way to get all that off. You know, I always think about the Michelangelo and his statue of David, you know, that reference where he said it, that the statue's underneath there. I just have to take the stone off to reveal it.
mm-hmm. Yes,
And I feel like
absolutely.
that's us, you know, like we're these beautiful divine beings, and we are on this journey of learning. And so we embrace these imperfections, we embrace these conditioned lenses and this crust to allow ourselves the opportunity to work our way through it, to
Yeah,
find our way back home to love, you know. So that's
yeah,
the journey, is like how far can you find your way back to love before the end of this incarnation, or do you need another one, you
right.
know? So how many incarnations do you need to, there's a lot of lessons, you know, there's a lot of embodied lessons to learn. And I think Jesus is an amazing example of working his way through so many layers of human crust and judgment and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
opinion and you know, perspective and all of these shadows that we face on this planet.
Yes,
Able to work his way back through that to embrace people who were,
yeah,
you know, who were outcasts from the general population.
right. Absolutely. So, you know, at the end of the day, you don't have to be perfect to be loved. You don't have to be perfect to be guided. You don't have to be perfect to do divine work. What you do have to do is listen and ask, and then take action on what you receive. That may be some of the most difficult aspect of surrender. That's actually, see, what you hear is oftentimes absolutely absurd. You will hear something and you go, what? I'm supposed to do what now? You know, that nah, I am not made for that. I don't do that. That's not me. I'm not ready.
The
Who
million
you
and one excuses to not do the
call?
thing that divine is telling you to do.
I'm not ready yet. I'm just not a perfect human being. I don't know why you asked me to do this, or, you know, all these myriad different things. You know, in your work, what you're here to do ultimately is to hear that guidance for whatever it is for you. And it comes in so many different ways, and it's all about so many different aspects of your life. There isn't one like, okay, this is for your work, so you're going to do this, and this is for your love, and you're supposed to do this. It's so, it is about every minute little thing about your life. And then you start to realize, when you start hearing the guidance because you're asking for it, and then you're receiving it, and then you're taking action on it, what starts to materialize is, yes, an outcome, not of your making or of your expectation, but an outcome that is pure. It's the outcome that's supposed to be. So we start to drop our preconceived notions of what the outcomes are supposed to be, and we start accepting what comes, because it's coming from a higher place and a higher knowledge and a bigger picture than we can ever know. It's not just for you. You start realizing that all this guidance, all this stuff that you receive, all this information, all these next steps, everything that you're getting, it's for you and the world. And it feels like, when I say that, okay, how can this guidance that I receive to drive my car and go this direction or take this street or go to this place or sign up for this site or all these myriad different things that we're asked to do through guidance with these promptings. How can that be for the world? That seems a little far-fetched. That's just for me. That just kind of worked, that was for me so that I could do da, 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 da. It's, you never know what your direction, when you start going this way, how many lives you're going to touch and how many lives are going to change from that one little shift and decision that you made. From there, it's that butterfly effect, that little ripple is massive.
Yeah, because even like, you don't know how many people are listening actually.
Right.
Or picking up little fragments, or like somebody watches this episode and then goes out and tells a few friends, they never watched the episode, but they've now been impacted by it as well because they've been changed because a message was spread, or even just I realized that these episodes are actually recording them. Even just right now, we're recording it. It's going into the collective consciousness. It's just as a conversation and an understanding. It's like in the collective consciousness now. And then as we, as people watch it back, it goes again. Like, so it gets extra saturated. So every person that listens or shares it or whatever, now that message just permeates even bigger into the collective consciousness. And then the fact that you and I connected, and then all the other connections we're each making individually with all the other people that have messages, like
absolutely,
that is like a giant web of a whole new consciousness that's being formed, right? And it looks like nothing. It looks like, oh, I just put this together and I put it out on YouTube.
Right.
No.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you following guidance you're doing, whether you know it or not. It's not. Then what tends to happen when people start listening to this kind of conversation or hearing that for themselves, they start fearing, did I miss it? Did I not get the guidance, or did I do the wrong thing, or how do I know I was guided? What do I know when I hear guidance? How do I know it's guidance, or it's just my thought, or things like that? Then start getting a little like weirded out by it or freaked out by it, or even like thinking maybe I'm gonna do it wrong, or I'm not gonna hear it. And so, it's the experiment process. If you're kind of new to this whole living guided sort of thing, just ask. And then know that you're going to receive it in some form, but don't have a preconceived notion as to what form that's going to be. Just ask. Your only job is to ask for the guidance for whatever it is you're asking for. I ask for guidance for everything. I'm constantly connected because I feel like everything I do has an impact and has something for me there to learn. So I ask for guidance there. I receive it. Now I'm starting to become more of an open receiver. I don't know how you're going to answer me. I don't know when. I don't know in what way. And I don't necessarily care, because why would I? It's you. You're the smart one. You're the wisdom. You're the all-knowing. So you answer me in whatever way you're going to, and I accept. Then I hear it. There's a hit right there. There's like an idea or a thought, all of a sudden I just got this feeling that I'm supposed to do this, and then I go and do that, and then drop the preconceived notion of what the outcome of that is supposed to be, because that's when we start getting disappointed. The outcome wasn't what I expected. I thought I was going to find the love of my life. I asked God, and then I went and did what I thought was really a prompting for me to go do, and I went and did it, and then that didn't happen. And so God doesn't listen to me. I was totally wrong. I don't do this right, or God doesn't really talk to me, or this whole God thing, listening to guidance, that's just a bunch of BS. And, I'm just going to go back to what I was doing before. I'm in control. I'm going to control it. I'm going to make it happen. Done. And so that's I need to know what the outcome is, or I need to say what the outcome is going to be. And if it isn't that, then it didn't work.
Yeah, but meanwhile, that might just be one step along a 100-step journey to get the outcome that you want,
So much.
Because sometimes what you want, if it's aligned and you're ready for it and it's aligned and it's true, it's like that. It's right there. And if it's not, then there might be a few adjustments, that have to happen. And the bigger the claim you make,
Right.
Watch out.
Your ass.
The
Yeah. Watch what
yeah,
you ask for.
like a year ago, like a year and a half ago, I made this claim. I started making this claim with my coaches that I work with, and I made this claim. I said, I want to be, because they ask you, what's your life purpose? I said, okay, here's what I want. I want to be a leader with the impact and inspiration of Martin Luther King, but in a way that's perfect for Carrie Hummingbird. That was my claim. Oh my Lord, ever since then. Like,
Yeah,
whoa! Like, and I'm
that's a
just
big one.
beginning the journey. So I like, did I sign up for that? Oh, let me review that. Let me just look and see if that's what I really want to do.
Might need to modify that just a little bit.
Let's just make a couple modifications, because what happens is like everything that's in the way of that comes up to the surface. So like I had entitlement issues with like expecting things from my parents, right? Expecting to be treated a certain way. That went out the door, like
Yeah.
no inheritance for you, like it left, right? So all the things that like were like hooks where I was tapped in to something other than my source, other than my connection to the divine, anything that was not that, like got illuminated and disintegrated, so like that's what happens when you make big claims.
Oh
But
yeah.
the benefit is like so much beauty. Like my book has been
So
like
much.
51 weeks international bestseller. It's like stuff like that, right? Like that message is really making an impact. Like that book came out, I channeled it, it was beautiful, it came out, it helped people. The show is doing great. I get connected with people like you, Jennifer. I have these fantastic conversations. So like there's so much beauty that comes from it, and there's some work,
There's-
you
Yes,
got to
there's
do it.
beauty and there's work. And I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. There's beauty and there's work. There's beauty and there's work. And they go back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah,
Beauty
because
and
you
work.
get up
And
against
you
your
get to-
edge. You get
Yeah,
to your
you do.
edge of
You
like,
go up
I
to the edge.
I can't go any further than this, God. That's it. I cannot give this one up. You said, but I didn't say. And then, so it's like this negotiation, right?
It is. It is.
Who's
Yep.
gonna win?
Who's gonna win? God, just tell
Probably.
it's all about the walls being broken down and things falling apart so they can be built anew. So that is a lot of what happens. There's a breakdown in a lot of things that aren't really serving you anymore, or didn't ever. Maybe they were just kind of a crutch, and actually like a cast is meant to heal. If left on too long, creates a profound amount of weakness in the muscle that it surrounds. So when we take that off, whatever our crutches are, or casts, we go through a period where we feel a little exposed, and our muscle has not been built up yet. We're not quite ready, so it's a little painful to build that up again when our crutch is taken away from us. So we're building new muscles, and when a healing has taken place and the old crutches don't work anymore, are no longer needed, and then we start to build strength where we didn't have it before, because not only were we weak there, but it was actually broken. It's mended, and now we got to strengthen it. And all that is a process. It's all of an unfolding, and it doesn't matter what part of your life you're going through that experience in. It's going to be a process, and honor and allow and forgive yourself in particular first. That's a big part of this whole process of growth, and the whole process of being guided and listening to that and going forward and breaking down walls for yourself and other people, is have compassion first and foremost for yourself. If you don't have compassion for yourself, you're going to be really hard on other people.
Well, that's because, people do things that you're like, that's not fair or that's not right. And then we can be judging those things. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they're agents of change for you. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they're like little evil streak or whatever, that they go through is actually for you, because you needed that thing in order to get the next level of mastery on your own journey, to remove one of those crutches that you had. So maybe they're not conscious enough to even know that that's what they were doing. They're
Mm-hmm.
just acting out like from this place because they're just, we're all being impacted and influenced by the divine all the
Yeah.
time. It's just that
Yes.
you can become aware of it. That's That's all the difference is you can become aware of it and act, make your own choices with it in alignment with that divine guidance. But we're always being influenced by it.
We are always being influenced by it. Absolutely. So one of the, oftentimes, you and I were talking about this a little bit. Oftentimes you're used as a catalyst for change for another soul.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't always feel very good. It can feel like you're under attack, or it can feel like you're being misused. And you might be under attack. You might be being misused. You might be, in a way, a victim of a very dark force. And I've come through these battles, and they create testimonies for me, which I write about. I'm in a similar one. And what has always occurred to me when in the middle of these kinds of experiences where you start to get out ahead of it, and you start realizing the level of guidance that you're receiving, and you start to think, oh, this isn't even about me. This isn't about me. I am an agent for change for this soul going through whatever it is it's going through. And not only am I an agent for change, I'm being used here. And so while I'm being used, and it's okay, because I said, this is what I said. Like I said, be careful what you say. I told God, I give you my life. Do with it what you will, so that I may serve. Well, I said that. So I am being used. But the beauty of it, that's the scary part, because when we make these professions and these proclamations and these contracts with God, so to speak, you are for real going to get taken serious. You are for real going into a contract that you won't get back out of unless you say, uncle, I didn't realize.
Well, if it's really too traumatic, you're not expected to follow through.
Here's the thing. I don't believe that you'll ever be put through something where you can't handle it and you won't be guided.
It seems like it.
It feels like it. It feels like it. But
you feel like you can't get through it because you have all these attachments to the way it was, and now everything is changing. Just like right now with the whole pandemic going on and the whole planet and everything like that.
Yes, 100%. So what then occurs is you get out ahead of it and you go, oh yeah, I forgot I said that. I'm being an agent for change here. Got it. Okay. Now I know I'm being used, and I know who I'm being used by, which is this higher power, this higher force. And all I need to do is listen to the next step and take it and do that action. And here's the next step and take it and do that action. Now there's peace because I get it. And it's not about me controlling the outcome or even me saying, this is the way it needs to be. I'm a part of this really, really big force that's moving forward for change. And I'm just a part of it. I'm just a part of it. And I get to watch in some way while participating, but I also get to watch what's happening. And it's when you are in that mode, when you're kind of like in the eye of the storm is all around you and it's really crazy, but you're in this place of peace in the middle of it. The eye of the storm always sounds like you're in the worst part. But in truth, when you're in the eye of the storm, you're actually in the most peaceful place while the storm is right around you, right? And you're in this place that, before I was like, I was in the storm and I was going around and around and around and around and around, and around like this. And I was like, I get it. And I got it. So, and while I was, so much prayer. And as I was getting more and more into the faith of it, I got toward the eye of the storm and I got to a place of peace. Now the storm's going around and I'm getting, this is what I need you to do here. And I go do that. And this is what I need you to go do. I can hear in the silence of this place of peace, in the middle of the storm, I can hear the guidance now.
Yeah.
I can hear it here. If I'm in the storm and I'm participating in the storm and I'm caught up in the storm, the emotional whirlwind, and I am this saying that, I can't, it's too much, and I'm in the middle, I am in the storm. But when I start to move away from that and I go to surrender and asking for guidance and taking that guidance, now I'm in the eye of the storm and I can hear it. It's quiet here.
Well, it's detachment from the drama, but it's not, doesn't mean there's not engagement. Let's talk about that.
100%.
Because detaching does not mean not engaged. And I think a lot of spiritual people miss this point.
Thank you. Yep. So that's a big one. Because God wants you to, God, divine source, however you want to say this, higher power, wants you to engage in the process of your life. Because oftentimes, you know, you and I spoke about being this, when you're sensitive, when you are, however you want to define this, light worker, teacher, we like peace. Okay. We just like things to go well. We want everybody to be happy. Peace feels good. What that was looking like for me was, I don't see you, drama. I don't want to be a part of that. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to go read a book. I'm going to go for a bike ride. And those are all like little healing things for me, because this other stuff was like really painful. I didn't want to look at it. And, but I wasn't engaging. The thing is, the process needed me present because I was a big part of it. I'm the impetus for change, but I didn't want to be part of the drama. So then, okay, I got it clearly. Jennifer, engage. And I was like, okay.
I don't want it.
I don't want
it. It hurt. It's uncomfortable.
I don't like this.
Jennifer, like, here's the thing. It's like light workers and people like us, empathic people, we have a refinement of awareness, of feeling and sensation of the drama. Mm-hmm. That people that are a little more crusty, and believe me, no judgment, because I used to be a super crusty human, just not aware of it. Like, just not, don't have that level of awareness because of all the crust, you know. And then when you start to take the crust off and you decrust yourself, you're really raw. You're raw, like you can feel it all. It hurts, you know. Like, you're really raw and you're really vulnerable. But you are. The crazy beauty about that, being raw and vulnerable, there's no crust, and you're just like all like exposed heart. It's like there's a heart that's beating. It's all right out there for the world to pummel it. Someone like breathes on it like a little smoke, and you're like, oh. Yes, 100%. The beauty, you know what's so beautiful about that is that is the strongest person for change. That raw heart out in the open. It's there. It's going to feel everything. When that engages, it doesn't mean that you have to be sweet. It doesn't mean that you have to be pious and perfect. It doesn't mean that you're engaging means that everybody's happy and everything goes really well. I'm so glad you're saying that, because it's such a lie. It's not. When you're an impetus for change, things, when you engage, it can get really ugly for a little while. You're going to see and read and hear and know things that are being said and talked about, and you're in the middle of a battle. If it's legal, if it's relationship, you're going to hear things and you're going to, oh God, my heart is just getting ripped to shreds. And they said what? And they're doing what? And so now you're in the middle of it, right? So you're getting thrown around in the storm now because you've engaged. It's like, here's the thing. Here's the eye of the storm. Here's all the drama. As a light worker, you're like, ooh, I'm watching all that. I do not want to get in there. I don't want to be in there. That looks awful. I like my peace tunnel, my silo of peace. Up here. But I don't want to get in there. That looks horrible. I want to stay in my silo of spiritual awakens. Right? But the divine says, I'm sorry. No. You're going to have to go, walk through a little bit of pain. You can handle it. It's going to be okay. So you get into the storm. You're like, oh God, it really hurts here. It's like, you're being pummeled around. Oh God, it really hurts. So then you start surrendering. I need you, guys.
hurts. This is really terrible. I'm crying. I'm in terror. I don't know what's happening. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know what the outcome of this is going to be. You're surrendering here. This is where you're surrendering, because it hurts like the mother. It's hurting like crazy, right? That's what brings you to your knees. I know it sounds terrible and cruel, but it does. If you have nothing else, when you're in incredibly excruciating pain, you're going to surrender.
Well, you have to feel it to heal it. That's the only
You
way.
have to feel it. You got to go through it.
You got to
It
go
just
through all the feels, and we're
got to go through.
healing like collective stuff. We're healing ancestral stuff.
Yeah,
You know, we're healing it. And you know you're healed when you walk into that storm and you don't feel it. You're like, oh, I'm fine. Oh, okay.
yeah,
Like this particular storm,
right.
I've done enough work on it that like it doesn't like
You
jab me in the heart
yeah,
anymore.
a lot of times, that's when you start going right to the eye of the storm more quickly.
Yeah, you get to the eye of the storm and you're like, okay, so
Okay,
let
so
let
what's
me
my goal here?
let me
Yeah,
elevate this. Like let me
yeah.
bring the light to this. Somebody said the other day, like there's like
Mhm.
smuggling heaven down into hell. Like it's like
True.
smuggling little packets of heaven like down into the
Yeah,
hellish storm, and then
yeah.
just like you're guarded and protected and safe while you're doing that. But boy,
Mhm.
you're gonna feel it. It definitely
We
hurts.
go
It
through
hurts
this
to
stuff.
hear what people are saying to each other. It's awful. I
It
do
is.
peruse Facebook
Mhm.
every so often and just look at, okay, what are people saying to each other this week, and then I'm like, oh.
Yeah, yeah, I
Oh,
know.
that's hurtful. Oh, and
Mm-hmm.
I just feel it. I just feel it to heal it, Jennifer. I mean, it's like, okay, this
It
is where
hurts.
people are at.
Well, yeah. Okay. So getting through the pain, getting to that eye, and then as you do this process, as you start to be more willing to engage, knowing that the whole reason why this whole thing is starting and happening, whatever it is, doesn't I'm not even talking about all the stuff that's going on right now, like the pandemic and the division and this the hatred, all these things that are going on right now. They're there's that's on a big scale, but everybody's going through their personal stuff too at the same time. So your personal life doesn't stop because the world is going through shifts. Your personal life, if anything, almost everything's ramping up. So everything's coming up to the surface like a pimple. Okay, all these imperfections in the souls
Totally like a pimple.
are coming up so we can get rid of it, clean it out. So a lot of people are going through personal stuff to get up, to have things come up and out. So, but what happens is, now that you're getting your willingness to engage, your willingness to go through it, your willingness to kind of get your heart a little beat up a little bit, means that you're going to start coming to surrender a little bit more quickly. Now you know how it works. It's like, okay, got it. I got to talk to God really quick. Like, right, I got to keep talking, keep praying, keep getting connected, keep staying connected. I'm going to get through this. I'm being protected. And you are protected. It doesn't always feel like it, but you're so protected. And then you get guidance. And then when you listen to it and you do it, you go, wow, that was profound. If I had to do it all over again, I would, because I get the testimony. I get to say what happened, and that was pretty cool. Actually, that was real. What you did there, God, that was pretty awesome. And I wouldn't have found that out, and I wouldn't have seen your work, and I wouldn't have had the testimony had I not gone through it. I'd go through that again. Let's do another one. And God's like, all right. So, but when you start to see that it's not your battle, the whole vengeance is mine sort of thing. It sounds like when I first heard that, I thought, yeah, right. I gotta stand up for myself. I can't just let somebody hit me and say, all right, God, could you stop them from hitting me? Because it really hurts. And then God doesn't. And you're like, the heck, I thought vengeance was yours. I'm not supposed to do anything. And that's not it. That's not it. You have to do the right thing. You have to stay in integrity. That's where you give it to God. You still have to stay in integrity. You don't go into the lying. You don't go into the deceit. You don't start taking the dark force ways of getting through it. You go the light worker way of getting through it. And it may be difficult, and it may be you are engaging in battle, but you're doing it with integrity. You're doing it with truth.
And you might have to let go of some things you think you are deserve.
Right.
But that also could be an entitlement. Like I had to go through that.
Right.
You know, like had expectations, like, well, because you have this role in my life, you're supposed to treat me this way. And if you don't do that, then then I'm in judgment over this behavior, right? Or
Right.
you're supposed to do this for me. You're supposed to relate. Well, are they supposed to? Everyone is at their own like level of mastery right now. Maybe they're doing their best. Like that's what they've got
Mhm.
right now. That's how much pain they're in. That action is what they've got. Doesn't mean you have to stand there and let them punch you, but you
Right.
just say, okay, so what's the, yeah, you're right. Like check in, like for this, because there's no blanket rule book. There's no rule book. You have to ask in the moment, what's the
Right.
appropriate response right now? What's my
Right.
action?
What's my action? What action do I take? And
Yeah.
then when you do take that, and you know you're being guided, and you know you're following the fight, the good fight, right? Whatever that is, then you are being assisted, and things will shift in the way they're supposed to, or the
And when
way
you can be
you figure.
grateful for all of it, like
Right.
even the crappy stuff that you're so mad about at first, you're just
Mhm.
like, I can't possibly be grateful for that. But then
It's hard to think. Yeah.
if you find
Good.
that gratitude, it changes the whole thing, right? Like to me, that's a magic. Like if I can get myself to gratitude or like the possibility of gratitude or the potential of gratitude in a
Mhm.
situation and be quiet, then usually the reason why I should be grateful for it comes out. Like it's like, oh, okay. Then I
Right.
know why it's happening.
Right. Because we learn our biggest lessons through the difficulties. It's not that we want them or we call them in just to go through them for funsies, but we learn our biggest lessons when things are challenging, because as you move along, as you graduate, so to speak, when the difficulties occur and you move through them and you understand you're guided, you're gaining such a strength that what could have thrown you, what you would have called unbelievable difficulty, now you're calling it's challenge. That was tough. But if there's sort of like a shrugging off of the level of difficulty, it would have thrown you before. But now you're going through it and you're like, I've been here. I know what this is about. I know what I'm supposed to do here. I'm going to ask. I'm going to be guided. I'm one person. I can only control what I can control. Everything else I let go. And I'm going to take that step forward in faith, continue to ask for guidance, continue to do it, continue to engage. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be present. I'm not going to avoid. I'm going to step right into it. And there's this level of bravery and understanding that no matter what it is I have to face, I'm going to do it and I'm going to be okay. And it's like, that's where you have this sort of warrior, but the warrior for good mentality. And that, on a big level, on a global level, it's kind of what we're being asked to do, to step up. You can take the warrior for not so good, the dark warrior role. There is sort of a battle for dark and light. And that divide and that the clarity of the two is coming to a more obvious, how do I say it? It's like you see the dark a lot more clearly now than it used to kind of hide. It was a bit more insidious. And the light was like, you had to kind of figure it out. Now it's almost like the division is getting really, really significant. And there comes a point in each and every single one of us, particularly in this time that we're in, where you actually have to, given moment by moment, choose a side. Am I going to choose light or am I going to choose dark? And that where the dark is very tempting. That's the divisive, that's the us against them. That's the, if you don't do this, you're all going to die and go to hell, all this sort of thing. This is that very, very tempting path to go that way and make everybody and everything wrong and everything bad. But there's this other side that's saying, well, what about thinking very differently now and choosing a different path that doesn't involve such division and darkness. It's about each individual soul spreading something quite beautiful and divine, going back to that very basic elemental faith. And what would something coming from such a divine place do here now? And can I do that? And maybe in my way, that's what I want to be a part of. And so that division is getting very, 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 very defined. So we're starting to decide what side we're going to participate in. Because as they become more defined, a dark and a light, as they become more defined, we start to see a shift. We get to see the dark for what it is and just how dark it is. And some people that have found it somewhat tempting and insidious go, whoa, that's a lot darker than I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna
and then you want to like check out and not look at it.
I'm going to jump over there.
Yeah.
Because I realized I was actually over here and I didn't even know it. And so they jump over here. I got to be a force for good. I got to be a force for positive. I got to be a force for some kind of change that's good. Because if not, then I'm over there. And I didn't even realize I was over there. Now I'm starting to realize I was over there. But I thought it was good. So then, start to even see it, darker spots in ourselves, because the division is so clear.
Well, what you're really talking about is claiming responsibility for it. So,
Really?
I mean, yeah, like when you see that you've had, like for a lot of people right now, a lot of people of Caucasian, white, is like seeing, hearing these things that are going on for the people of color, and all that's coming out of that. And then there's been like this colorblind training, which I certainly received growing up. I was taught to be colorblind. Mm-hmm. Then to see like, oh, wait a second, that was actually not in service of people of color. Yeah. To have allies that don't know that it's an issue, and like turn a blind eye to it because we think because we're colorblind. Mm-hmm. Like, whoa, like that has woken me up too, because I'm like, oh, wait a second, I can't do that now. Now I need to pay attention to it. So then the question is, well, how? What's the most loving, compassionate, honoring thing that I can do for people of color to really honor this transition? And that's just one of like the millions of issues that are up in the space right now. Like there's just so many that there's been a lot hidden under the surface, and some people definitely have been responsible for creating these paradigms, and then the rest of us just being like little sheep following along and not realizing that we were being domesticated this way. This is like the conditioning. We have to decide that we're going to become aware of that, claim responsibility for it, and heal it from the inside out. With what? By bravely going into the storm with our hearts open and saying, hey, I just now see that that's an issue. I'm showing up. I'm here.
That's the beauty of stuff coming out and seeing and being shown, and there's light being shed on it. The beauty of truth being looked at. And sometimes the truth of what has been and what has gone on is really not pretty.
It's really ugly, actually. I've been
it's
having
really
a lot of research into it lately, and it's very terrible. It makes me very angry. For a lot of anger when I look at it.
But when you think about it, how long was that covered up? And how long was that really
hundreds of years,
Right? And so, the beauty of it is we're going to start looking at this. We're going to start really looking at it. And from a humanity, from a perspective of being another human being, how would that feel? Oh, if that were me, could you feel the difference and the injustice and all that kind of thing? I can't pretend that I have an understanding of that from that perspective. But what I can do is feel in my soul as a human being, it just doesn't feel good. It feels painful even to me to see it, but it's good that we see it. So we're seeing things are being opened up. Just everything's being opened up. Even that Me Too movement in 2017, when things were really coming out about what was going on in women and in workforce and things like that, there was the turning of a blind eye to what was going on for women in the workforce and so forth. And that was let's open that
And
up
all
and
the
look
child
at it.
abuse stuff too has come
That's
up.
not
Like
safe.
that's
Right.
been up in this last year, is all the child abuse and like the hidden
Yes.
rings of like, it's like I don't even want to go there. Like that's so terrible. But we have
We
to be
don't like
aware of
to
it.
look at it, right? It's not comfortable to look. I don't like to look at that. I don't like to hear these things. And I don't want, it does make my heart really absolutely torn up. The thing is that we can't change what we don't know.
Right. If we're
Can't change
ignorant and
things
blind
we
to it,
don't know.
we take no action.
100%. So we're up leveling. It's, on a global scale, humanitarian scale. It's an up leveling. It's a shifting up from what has been maybe even swept under the rug to a new way of being really honest and looking at things openly and honestly and being able to and engaging. Not the I don't want to get involved in that storm. Now we're engaging and it hurts. We're in the whirlwind right now. We're in the whirlwind phase of this hurts. I don't like looking at this. This is painful. My heart's getting beat up, and I can't hear or see one more thing. It's just too much. It's too much. It's too much. We're in the like swept up phase of it. Not all of us, but it's like collectively. There's a lot of that like storm right now. But we're inching toward the middle where we can start to hear guidance. Okay, I see why you're showing me all of this. It's not because you want to beat me up and have me go, oh, the world is so awful. It's awful. Just take me out of it now. I don't want to be here anymore. To what is my next step? How would you guide me now?
Yeah,
Each and
because
every
love,
single day.
compassion, and forgiveness, they all play a role in all of this too.
100%.
You know,
100%.
like it or not, that's our job,
It
to
is our job.
somehow bring compassion, love, and forgiveness to all of that.
It is. But we don't need to figure out exactly how. We can be guided in that and come to somewhat of a place of surrender. And I think, again, when you go through such a high level of pain as we're going through right now, there's a lot of pain. It's difficult to live right now. It's difficult to be a human being right now. I mean, it truly is. There's no two ways about it. And all the light workers can say, well, I'm in this place of incredible peace and joy, and I've never been so happy. Well, sure. Okay, but let me ask you tomorrow, okay, when you actually want to go do something and you can't, and you want to go see somebody and you can't, and you have to wear a mask instead of, looking at a beautiful face anymore, and it's everywhere. So yeah, you can't tell me that there isn't a part of your soul that's hurting a little bit right now for each and every single one of us. It's true. We're all going to have a little bit of pain for what's going on. And but we're inching toward that middle now because we're going through the pain. There's going to be a huge part of us who are coming to a surrender and say, okay, I hear you. I hear you. And what is my part? What's my next step? Just guide me. Tell me what to do next. And I will do that. And that's a place of surrender and beauty. That's where we start to get things to look more light.
Beautiful. I love that. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Good.
Here.
Yeah, we can't eat the whole elephant in one bite. So
We can't.
one bite at a time on that elephant so we can
One,
digest it.
and
Love and
that's where
compassion.
you realize it's doable. We can be guided into each step forward. That we can do. And how do you do it? Ask. What
Ask
would
and
you
give yourself space. Like you might, you
right?
might need a little break from it from time to time. You can't spend all this time on social media
Sure.
and news and checking all that out. You
No,
need a little like,
no, you
but
can't.
don't silo. I'd
Right.
say that's the thing. Like my lovely light workers, please don't silo. That's not what we're here
Yeah.
for. We're really
Yeah.
here to bring light to the shadows, bring
Mm-hmm.
love and compassion and forgiveness, be the demonstration of that. That's what we're here for.
Mm-hmm.
Heart open, courageous, like you talked about. I love that. That's what
Yeah.
we're here for. And it's a hard job. That's why we're here to do it.
Yeah.
Because we can.
We can. And, because a lot of light workers have been through maybe some of the darkest that people have ever experienced. A lot of light workers have. If you ask a light worker what got them to do or be where they are, you probably will hear a story that was pretty difficult. And the reason for that is there's a refinement there, there's a process there, and there's a surrender there like no other. When you come to a place where you are on your knees and begging for guidance, because that's all you have now, that's where you receive it in profound showers of guidance.
Mm.
And when you get that and you take action on it, because that is, again, all you have, then you start to see what that can do. And when you do realize that, you never want to live any other way.
Yeah, there is, I mean, the brilliance of the divine is like unmatched. So, I mean, all the brilliant things I've done, it's just because I listened. That's all it
That's,
is.
that's all it
Just
is.
because I listened, I channeled and I listened. That's why my book is doing so well. And your book, Living Guided, Divine Power is Always and Forever with You. I think people should go grab that from Amazon. Go read that.
I would love for that to have the impact that its intent was. And I felt very guided, of course, to write it. I knew there were things that came through me that were guided, and experiences that came to me. Some not so, some really, really, really difficult, but they came through and they happened, and visions occurred so that they could be written and that they could teach. And so that's what it's there for. It's this piece that is, I feel like there's a divine message of love there for each and every soul that reads it. And people ask me, well, what's your niche? Who's your audience? And I was thinking, well, gosh, I hate that question, because who can't use an understanding of how to connect with divine power and be guided in their life? I don't know who can't. So I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to tell you who my niche is. It's not, I don't have it. But if you ask me, are you going to teach everybody? I would say, well, anybody that'll listen, sure.
Well, that's the key, is listening. The willingness to listen and learn.
That's it right there.
We work on those ones, and the other ones we say, well, you know, I see you doing your stuff. Okay. You're still playing the game. Okay, you're still playing Monopoly. That's all right. Okay. We're in a different game now. We're in a different phase.
And here's the beauty of it. You know, I'm not special. And, you know, I can get visions. I am guided. I've had profound experiences. I'm not special, because in an instant, that can be anyone's experience. That's how beautiful divine is. In an instant, that can be your experience.
When you say yes to it and you're ready to do it. Yes. Yeah. But you did put the work in, and so you earned that part. You
earned that badge.
That's your badge.
You earned that badge.
You put the work in. Yeah. To open the doors.
You know, the beauty of the work is that I get to say, if you only knew how beautiful it is here. And it doesn't mean it's all perfect, and it doesn't mean it all goes exactly the way I would say, this is exactly what I wanted. It's all bed of roses. No, it's not the case. There are thorns underneath those roses.
There's lots of thorns.
Lots of thorns there.
You get smart and you listen to the divine, and then you don't break yourself with it.
You just realize how freaking strong you really are. Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing. You know what I love about this view of you right now is that you have these wings behind you.
Yeah.
And it kind of looks like they're sprouting out of your back.
Yeah.
So what's really cool is that there's a metamorphosis here. Okay. This is what the beauty of the butterfly is. It's incredibly, well, you may find a caterpillar pretty. I don't particularly care for caterpillars, but I don't really think they're all that pretty. You can go from this thing that's a little like, ugh, to really want that anywhere near me, to go into this chrysalis, and inside is this even worse soup of yuckiness, right? That's a soup going on in there. And a miraculous thing is going on, and that's where it gets really, really profoundly ugly in there. There's a lot that's not beautiful, and if you were to open it up and crack it up, at that moment, it would pour out and be done. If you hold on through that metamorphosis, through that soup of nastiness, there will be an unfolding of wings. And now it doesn't mean that no problems exist and it all goes your way, but you can soar through it and fly over it and know that you're guided and you're carried now. Like the wind is carrying you, so is that divine force. You're not crawling through the muck and the mire and the crap anymore all by yourself. You've gone through it. You've seen the worst of it. You've gotten wings now, and you're being carried by this wind of divine guidance. And that's what's so beautiful about that vision behind you. You've got your wings. You earned them. And
Yeah,
me too.
I sure did earn them. Woo woo.
Me too.
I'm keeping them.
And each and every one of us. Each and every one of us. I truly believe that. When there isn't a willingness, when the dark force is taken over, and there's been a willingness to shake hands with that and sign a contract with that, it's really hard to get out of it. But when you do turn toward the light, you can change that, and you can become someone new, completely different, and take that on and start now living on this side where there is light, where you become this strong warrior for change. And you've gone through the battle, and you know what the war is, and you know it's a battle for good. And you got to be really strong there, so you got to go through a few battles yourself. You have to be strengthened. You have to know that, you know, as a warrior, you're strong. You've got your battle wounds. You've paid the price. You got your badge, and you've got your wings. So, that being said, we can get through this, and we're going through the soup. We're in the middle of the soup right now, in the chrysalis, and you know, we can crack it open and it all fall apart right here and now, or we can allow it to unfold the way it's supposed to and ask for guidance and what our role is.
Yeah, and hold steady and hold deep in your roots, expand your capacity to hold space, be present with all the discomfort, and just keep listening and wait and being present, basically.
Yes. And having that faith.
Yep, have faith. Gorgeous. Good recommendation, good advice, and good channeling. Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing your wisdom. So, you know, if you guys really liked this episode, you got a lot of value from this, please share it out. You know, share it out with other people that you think might be going through a hard time right now. There's a lot of stuff up in the air, and people could really use another perspective or some insight, or even just one more conversation, you know, to just help guide through that process. I mean, how many times do we need to hear it before we finally believe it? So recommend that you send it out and share it with anybody you want. Share it on social media, leave us a review, whatever you need to do to give it some engagement, because it is important to engage, especially on social media and with all the iTunes and all that stuff. So please do that. And tune in with Jennifer. So is there a way that people begin with you?
Sure. My website is listen2guidance.com. And I'd love to share with your audience, you know, a chapter out of my book. And so I'll send that to you, and we can certainly have that go out to people, and so they can have some piece of that to read.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Really beautiful. Well, thank you so much. So connect with Jennifer. I'll have the show notes, has the link to her book, and we'll provide you the chapter, and you know, check her out, go to her website, and definitely share out this episode so more people find out about Jennifer and her wisdom and this beautiful conversation that we just had today. Thank you. So we're going to give kisses on the way out. Do you want to join me with some kisses?
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go, everybody. Here come the kisses. We love you so much. Bye for now. We'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show.